G'day there guys, Markee here, relying on miracles but never believing in them. Welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck like on this video, sit down in the comments, and do whatever you want because I have just botched this introduction. Posted by user Weed Apartment, titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining Thanksgiving by blowing up on my sister? So, Thanksgiving was 2 days ago. And after dinner, I laid into my sister. We never got along, but she has always looked down upon me and always has to make snide remarks about my lifestyle. I don't get it. I have never tried to purposefully hurt her since we hit our adult ages, and I always tried to be kind and thoughtful, but she never wanted any of that. During family gatherings, she always has to bring up how I'm a stoner loser who would rather party than be here. I usually keep my mouth shut because I don't want to fight with her. All I wanted was for us to respect and love each other, but I guess she has different ideas of our relationship. This Thanksgiving, she started again after we ate, and I just had enough. I said something along the lines of, I've always tried to be kind and thoughtful of you, and always wanted us to be close and love each other. But now, I just don't fudging care. Since we both moved out, you have been nothing but a straight-up a-hole to me and always looked down upon me. I am fudging done with it. I will see you on the holidays to please Mom and Dad, but that's it. Stay out of my life. After I said that, I left. It felt incredible to finally stand up to her and her constant snide remarks and looking down of me. I got a call from her calling me a dick and how I ruined Thanksgiving. I answered because I thought that she was going to apologize, but when I realized it wasn't, I just flat out hung up. And she and my mum have been calling me non-stop, and I just flat out refused to answer either of them. I'll call my mum back when I'm ready, but I'm pretty much done with my sister. AITA? ETA, a bit of stuff is getting misconstrued. I paid my way through rehab, my parents took her money when I had a freak injury I almost died from, and I have never taken a dime from my parents since I moved out at 18. I guess you're not really trying to purposefully hurt her here. She's the one that was trying to purposefully hurt you by saying you're a stoner loser, even though you've been to rehab and you've made yourself better in that time. She kind of sucks for continually bringing that up, and I'm surprised it got this far down the line and no one has pulled her up on her actions. It's kind of surprising, but hey, I give you a free pass for having a go at her there, and, cutting her out of your life, as it seems you have. You don't deserve that negativity in your life, and what can you do at this point, besides blow up, move on, and recover? That's more than fine with me, OP. You're not an a-hole for blowing up. If that blow up was unwarranted, then yeah, you would have been, but I don't see it as being unwarranted in this situation. Not the a-hole. She started in on you after dinner. She chose to continue harassing you, and you finally stood up for yourself. And it sounds like you spelled it all out. You didn't ruin Thanksgiving. Don't let her categorize it that way for standing up for yourself. You didn't pick that fight, but you ended it and walked away. Read through the OP's other posts and comments, and in summary, ever since elementary, he's been a problem child, and their parents neglected his older sister because they had to spend all their time and attention on OP. OP was in a gang, a serious South Cali one, and his parents and sister were legit worried that he'd be shot. OP's parents dipped into his sister's college savings to help him out when he broke his neck and tore his ACL. Despite all that, OP still drops out of college, was an alcoholic, got his girlfriend pregnant, still smokes weed regularly. They also have a cousin who's in jail for drug possession and distribution, which also worries his sister. So nah, OP's definitely still the a-hole here. Sister seems to be a victim of OP and their parents. Yeah, seems like you're the a-hole to me. OP seems to think none of this long list of reasons his sister would be critical are valid. Being judgmental of a stoner gangbanger who screwed your family over seems pretty reasonable. To quote, I have never tried to purposefully hurt her since we hit our adult ages, was when I was wondering what damage he had done to her growing up, but holy crap, you're the a-hole OP. That sentence was a big red flag to me. Me too. gave me a gut "you're the a-hole" feeling, and made me wonder who the real instigator of the argument was. Lots of vague verbiage in this post. I'm pretty sure OP is trying to hide his fault from the internet. This is one of those situations that's impossible to judge without seeing and hearing all sides. Addiction wreaks havoc on families in devastating ways. To the person who needs help, it may look and feel like everyone who loves them is out to get them, and the stress of it all may actually cause families to become angry and bitter and say things that are regrettable. This sort of thing can't be sorted out with a simple who is and isn't the a-hole. They all need counseling. Update: am I the a-hole for ruining Thanksgiving by blowing up on my sister? Okay, so a lot happened after the whole blow up at Thanksgiving. I thought that was really it for our relationship, but I forgot my significant other was friends with her before she met me, and basically forced us to have a sit down. It was awkward as hell, but the resentment/anger we have for each other wasn't really there, because I exploded and left it all out in the open on Thanksgiving. So we talked, and took a good 5 to 10 minutes before anything really happened, when she explained how me being a junkie who screwed up my own chances, being in a gang, having our parents favor me, and them taking money out of her college bank account, and how it all made her feel. Hearing her say that made me feel bad, and I apologized for that, but also said I had no power in how my parents viewed us, and got her to agree that maybe our parents aren't really the best people who created some of the resentment and anger we have for each other, but I still took ownership for being an alcoholic and smoking weed. We made up, and I promised to give up weed because from what people in the comments said, yeah, that is pretty stupid of me to do. We didn't have a makeup hug or anything like that, but I gave her a heartfelt, "I'm sorry." She apologized too for saying a lot of mean crap to me during the holidays. While we aren't friends or anything and we're not close, a lot of the anger we have towards each other is pretty much all gone, and more of a mutual respect that we didn't have the best parents, and how there is no point in us being mad at each other, because we were just the kids and young adults in this situation. I would like to thank everyone who commented. It did open my eyes to my weed use and how that is dangerous. So I am 100% sober, and haven't been high in almost a month now, and going on 3 years sober too. In your original post, you didn't mention you were in a gang and took money out of her college savings. I don't like talking about the gang, and it was my parents who took the money out of her savings after I got injured. So you left the objectively most important parts of your history out of your post to make your sister look rational? You literally painted her as an a-hole to a bajillion of strangers online, just to get vindicated as the good one. Absolutely no wonder she doesn't like you. Edit: it also doesn't matter that your parents took her money out. You let them. You took the money, and you apparently did not reimburse or help her in any way whatsoever afterwards. What? I was in the hospital and I had no control over how they paid for my surgery at all. I did pay her back, but she didn't want the money. How did you get injured? I was playing football and I hit my head on the ground and my neck twisted in the wrong way. Broke it in 3 different places along with a torn ACL. I was in and out of consciousness and I didn't know they took her money. She didn't tell me till I was 19 and I offered my college money but she didn't want it. Wait, you had college money too but they took hers? My parents aren't the best people. I apologized profusely for that to my sister before we gassed it out, and she wouldn't accept it and blamed me. Posted by user Martin and Marvin. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for visiting my ex in jail against the wishes of my girlfriend?" I live with my girlfriend Molly and have done for the past 2 years. I love her, and since we're both financially stable, we're thinking of starting a family together. My ex-girlfriend Amy is in jail. She worked in finance, pretty high up, already earning great money, but got involved in an illegal scheme to make easy money. Everyone involved has been jailed. I heard about this and thought it was a shame, but we haven't been together for 4 years, so I had no reason to reach out to her. That was until I received a letter from her in the post, where she told me that all of her family and friends had cut her off, and asking if I could be in contact with her purely as a friend so she had someone to talk to on the outside. I agreed and visited her today. Amy's family are upper-class types who are obsessed with their reputation, and so cut their criminal daughter off. Most of her friends are from the same professional circles as her, so they don't want to know her either. I'm her only friend outside the prison. She's a complete wreck of a person. When she saw me, she broke down in tears, as I'm the first person who's ever visited her. Amy doesn't belong in there at all. She's going out of her mind with boredom sitting in her cell. While she's been put on some courses, they are far below her capability. She has a degree in mathematics and numerous financial certifications, and they are only offering her very basic skills courses. She has to wear clothes that are usually over and undersized and have been worn by many others before. From what she's said, I think she's being bullied in there too. She said a lot of the other women don't like her because apparently she comes across as spoiled and snobby. After the visit, she hugged me and thanked me for coming, and I said I'd try to come once a month. Molly was okay with me seeing Amy beforehand, but when I got home she said she doesn't feel comfortable. She said if it was anyone else it would be okay, but the fact that I'm going out of my way for my ex frightens her. She asked me if I have feelings for Amy, which I don't. But that didn't satisfy her, and she said she wouldn't feel happy unless I stopped seeing Amy, which I said I wouldn't. I'm Amy's only friend. Why should I let her sit in that crap hole all alone when I can be there just as a friend to help her through it? Looking through this dynamic, I'm very much split between no a-holes here and everyone sucks here. It's kind of a triangle of like one's hurting the other one's hurting this one, and that one's hurting the next one. There's no good solution to this one. Everyone's hurting each other in one way, but they have to get their way whether they want it or not. The girlfriend of OP has it the worst, because who knows what OP's up to. We don't know his backstory, and we don't know his history with this girlfriend. We don't know if he's lying about the feelings or not. That's just what he's telling us and what he's telling her. I think everyone sucks here is the safest bet, leaning on maybe that OP is the a-hole. Don't know if the girlfriend is coming from a place of extreme jealousy, if she has a history of that, if she doesn't trust him. Who knows? Don't have enough information. I'ma say everyone sucks here. I'm going to join the other commenter who went against the rest. You're the a-hole. Your current girlfriend is uncomfortable with you seeing your ex for good reason. If you're this forgiving of your ex's transgressions when talking to your girlfriend, it's very fair of her to be concerned. Amy is a criminal, and it's absolutely fair for her friends and family to refuse to support her through that. You seem to be willfully blind to that fact, which I'm sure is alarming to your girlfriend. I'm also going to second the idea of Amy falling in love with you. You're running some high risks here, and your girlfriend sees that. Amy's going to see you as her white knight, the reprieve from prison, where she rightfully is, and along with the fact of your previous relationship, will develop some form of serious attachment. I'd feel threatened if I was your girlfriend too. And dude, once a month? That's excessive. I'd say occasionally, on a relatively infrequent, semi-regular basis. Like, don't organize your plans around visiting your criminal ex. Only if it works out, and bring your girlfriend. I'm with your girlfriend on this one. It's towing the line for sure. Update. Am I the a-hole for visiting my ex-girlfriend in jail against the wishes of my current girlfriend? So, Molly and I sat down together and discussed everything. I understood why she was worried, and she understood why I didn't think it was right to leave Amy in that place alone. In the end, I took the advice of one of the comments on the original post. I asked Molly if she would come with me when visiting Amy. She was very apprehensive, but agreed. Things were obviously awkward at the beginning, but they started to chat and got along. Amy was just grateful to have someone come along, and Molly wasn't going to be rude, so they hit it off well. Amy opened up about what's happening with her. The place is incredibly run down. She's in a cell on the top floor, and the window is cracked, so it's absolutely freezing at night, and the prisons only supply a fairly thin blanket. It's overcrowded, and they're putting 2 people in cells built for 1. Amy has to share a tiny cell with a woman who doesn't like her and who controls the cell, hogging the TV and deciding when they turn the lights out and go to sleep. The food and clothes are awful, and in order to occupy herself, Amy must go to basic literacy and numeracy courses, which she's completely overqualified for. The alternative to that is sitting in her cell going mad with boredom. Amy was crying her eyes out, but tried to hide it because if the others see her, they'll think she's weak. She's not had any problems with anyone, but apparently some of the others make fun of her posh accent. Her parents, friends, or family haven't made any effort to contact her. Molly was an absolute star. She hugged Amy while she cried and reassured her. I wasn't expecting this at all, but was so proud. She said she'll be happy to be her friend if she needs one. They shared a few jokes too and chatted about fashion and things like that. Amy even promised she'd give her some of her designer stuff as a thank you when she gets out. In the end, Molly hugged Amy goodbye and promised we'd visit again. Later, Molly admitted that she was still a bit unsure over the fact that this was my ex, but she admitted that she could see how much Amy needs friends and people to support her. She thinks it's the right thing to do to see her as much as we can. Amy will be released in mid-2023, so we said we'd see her once every couple of months if we can. Thanks for the advice on the original post, very much appreciated. I would highly recommend contacting some of her friends or family. Find out if they cut her off just for being in jail or something else. If it's something else, you know to be on your guard. Even if she is a manipulator, she's not completely devoid of humanity and still deserves a little sympathy. With the reason for her being in jail being financial, it would not surprise me one bit if she screwed over a family member, and as a result, that is why the family is no longer in contact with her. So true. I befriended someone who committed a financial crime and was on probation, and justified it and seemed like she had changed. But the more I got to know her, the more I understood why everyone had abandoned her. She wound up taking advantage of me and burning me too. Seems like your ex is in need of some compassion, but I've learned sometimes people get abandoned by everyone for a reason, even if they paint themselves as blameless. Some of it would come from the nature of the crime. I work in the legal industry, and it's rather tightly knit. I would probably cut off contact just to protect myself professionally. What happened was, unfortunately, highly unethical. I'm sorry, but I would want to keep my own name a million miles away from that, even if I was sympathetic on a personal level. You could still reach out as an FYI that this woman is hurting, and some compassion would do wonders. If you get warnings, take them as you will. I still get the feeling that Amy's selling you both a bill of goods. There's usually a reason friends and family cut off contact, and it's not likely the reason Amy is giving you. She's worked her way down the list of people she can use until she's got an ex-boyfriend she hasn't seen in 4 years. That's a bingo. Be careful here, OP. The saying applies to third parties as well. If you keep running into a-holes, you are the a-hole. There's a reason other people have cut her off. Only sometimes. It goes by a person-by-person basis. My relationship with my parents is strained. They've always controlled the narrative and manipulate situations so I look unreasonable. Parents could suck up and were looking for a reason to cut her off. Valuing reputation over being a solid support system is what did it in for me. I'm all screwed up and have no friends, so I would probably be in her situation too. OP and his lady sound like rock stars. Not everyone is a secret scumbag. Good people can make mistakes, and it takes other good people to step up and help them out of a bad place. Posted by user HuzJJSujEdgeEdgeHD822. Titled, Am I the a-hole for going no contact with my narcissistic daughter? Throw away because my daughter knows my main account and uses Reddit too. I, 46 female, raised my daughter by myself. I got pregnant by my ex-boyfriend, but as soon as he found out I was pregnant, he gave me an ultimatum to abort or he would leave. I chose to keep the baby and he left. I later learned that he had fled the country to avoid paying child support. I struggled, but we got by. I decided to move back in with my parents, and I stayed there for a couple of years. I then got a job in a clothes store, and there I could provide for my daughter. Over her teenage years, however, my daughter became spoiled. She became more demanding, always wanting the latest clothes, phone, and was always quite annoying. I shrugged it off as a puberty thing and knew that she'd get over it. When she was 15, her father tried reaching out and she said he had returned to the country and was struggling now after his girlfriend, I didn't know he had, allegedly had split up with him. He contacted me saying he was sorry. He even said that he would pay me everything he owed in child support. However, I refused, which angered my daughter. She said he might be able to provide better for her, but I told her that he is very likely having a tough time and wants to come back just so we can look after him, and that he left me struggling when I was pregnant. She got upset but didn't mention it again. When she was 18, she told me she was dating a 19-year-old guy and was going to live with him. I, of course, wanted to let my daughter spread her wings, so I asked if she was sure, and then she moved in with him. Apparently, she's now gone LC, little contact with me, because I'm apparently a bad parent for not letting her reconcile with her father. She only lets me visit once every couple of months for a couple of hours, and also tries to avoid talking to me over the phone and via text as much as she can. Her boyfriend apparently has now broken up with her, and the lockdown is lifting where I live, so soon she'll be able to move out as her boyfriend is giving her a month. I asked her why her boyfriend broke up, and she said it was because he thought that she was being emotionally abusive towards me, and he didn't want to be with her. She wants to move back in with me, as she told me when she called me last weekend. I decided to tell her no. I told her I was cutting contact with her because she was being horrible and abusive, and I didn't want her to live with me as she evidently didn't care about me and only wanted the roof over her head. She got angry and swore down the phone, telling me she's going to be homeless and I was the nasty one by not letting her see her father, who may be able to provide for her better. I told her that her father didn't care about her and only wanted to use her, but she hung up. She hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the a-hole for cutting contact with my narcissistic daughter and not allowing her to live with me? How is OP this old and this blind? Like, it seems as though every step that they could be looking after their own kids' best interests, they're doing the exact opposite thing? Is it a pride issue? Are you so proud of yourself that, oh my god, you've done me wrong once, I can't be the bigger man here, I'm gonna shut down my own child because that's just the way I am? Look, sure, the dad might have been a bad person, but you didn't allow your daughter the opportunity to see that firsthand and learn themselves whether he was a good or bad person, whether or not he wanted to use her or not. You didn't give her the opportunity to get in contact with him. She cut you off because she's not feeling right about living with you, feels like you're manipulating her. You don't give her the chance to see if the grass is greener on the other side. You let her do it and then you don't allow her back into your life. And now she's going homeless as a result. That's a disgusting line to take, OP. You should genuinely feel ashamed of yourself for doing that. She's not narcissistic. She's young. She's figuring herself out. 19 isn't that old. She doesn't have the wisdom that someone your age does, OP. Give her a chance to grow up. You're the a-hole. There's a lot to unpack here. I understand why maybe you didn't want your ex to move in with you or anything, but at 15, she was old enough to decide for herself if she wanted a relationship with her dad or not. Nothing you described makes her sound like a narcissist. She sounds more like a typical teenager, albeit one who was angry because you didn't let her see her dad. She's 18, so it's up to you whether or not you let her live with you now, but you sound like you're getting revenge for her not seeing you as much as you would like. It sounds like she was justified in being angry at you for not letting her have a relationship with her dad. Don't let her live with you if you don't want to, but don't pretend it's all her fault, nor get mad later when she likely permanently cuts you off. She might be immature, but she's also still pretty young. You're the a-hole. Right? I didn't get a single narcissist vibe from the daughter in this story, other than the typical ways in which old children are naturally narcissistic. OP wanted the relationship when she unilaterally chose for her daughter to not see her dad, even though daughter was old enough to have an opinion. Sounds like OP is projecting and came here for validation that she won't be getting. You're the a-hole, OP. You've got a chance to fix this. Don't be the reason you lose your daughter. It's the rare teenager that you couldn't describe as always wanting the latest clothes, phone, and was always quite annoying. If that's all it takes to be considered a narcissist, then I think most teens, and probably adults, would fall into that category as well. Agreed. We didn't have much growing up, and after we took in some relatives when their parents died, there were suddenly 4 teenagers in my house at one time. Pretty sure my parents had to tell us daily we couldn't have the new Nikes and whatnot. I know you Yanks like to say Nikes, but Nikes sounds better. We weren't spoiled with material things, but it's just being a teenager to see your friends have so much and want it too. We all got high school jobs for that, and you better believe we spent our money on shoes and sunglasses and stupid crap that we didn't need. There is one thing I can't get over in your post. Child support was her legal entitlement. Her father offered it, very late, but in full, and you rejected it. Her legal entitlement. I'm sure your ego will go a long way towards paying her tuition or investing in real estate. You're the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for going no contact with my narcissistic daughter? Hello everybody. I've been reading your feedback from my original post, and I decided about a week ago I would contact my daughter and offer her a chance to live with me for a while. I contacted her and she did not answer a few times, but then the 4th time she did answer. It turns out she had been looking for a place to stay with the small amount of money she had so she could get a better paying job later on. But she had no luck so far finding a place to live and only had about 3 weeks to leave her boyfriend's house. I did feel sorry for her. I don't think I'm a narcissist, and I do still think she was acting a little spoilt, entitled, and narcissistic. But I do feel sorry for my daughter. So I decided to let her come live with me on one condition: that she would be nice, friendly, and wouldn't act spoilt anymore. She agreed and decided to move in with me yesterday. She has since been helpful, polite, and hasn't acted spoilt since. I'm confident she's changed from her previous self. She asked me if she could meet her father, but I'm still not sure. I decided to give her my ex's number, but I told her to take what he says with caution, as I still didn't trust him very much. She has spoken to my ex over the phone, and they got to know each other, but I do hope my ex genuinely is sorry, and we could start over someday. Thank you everybody once again for your feedback on the original post. I See Childhood 1 says, you declined back pay that you and your daughter are owed and entitled to, and you blocked her from having a chance to speak to her father to get some kind of closure. Sure, he hurt you, but she wasn't even born yet to know him, and that hurt. Of course she couldn't relate to you there. You have done the right thing now, but let's go into the other issue. I don't understand why you declined the back pay, especially with the current world events and the fact your daughter could have used it. You never gave any reasons why she was spoiled, besides asking for things. You don't want your child to be terrified into never asking for anything ever, because they turn into someone like me, who won't ask for anything unless I'm dying or needed it to graduate. Me not asking for anything got so bad that eventually it got to a point where I'd only eat dinner. No lunch, no breakfast, only dinner, because I felt that we didn't have enough money to afford 3 meals for everyone. So I gave up having any so others could. When it came to my birthday, I one year said I wanted to skip it, and then my dad screamed and yelled at me after he told me to pick some things to get, and was angry that I wanted a new set of headphones. Not even brand specific, I just said headphones, and he popped off screaming and ranted about a box of broken headphones, which were my dead brother's that he decided to bring with us when we moved, so they weren't even mine. So I still skipped it that year and years after until his death. It's taken me a whole year to get okay with buying nice things that are not food for myself with the money I've earned. So think for a while about how your actions and words in the past have more than likely affected your daughter. If you are always getting her the newest things as soon as it was out, and not as a birthday gift on or near her birthday, then her expecting you to get her the latest and greatest might just be your fault. If you never sat down and made clear about why you can't afford to do those things for her, and talk calmly with your almost adult/adult daughter, then you're one step from being just like my father. You're just missing the "we're too poor" lie. My point? You probably have done things that you think are acceptable, but in truth are not. And that is why your daughter went low contact. You've probably somewhat skewed your reality because otherwise, a lot of what you're saying you haven't explained how it could be. Posted by user Am I a Crazy Mum? Titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at ex-dear husband's girlfriend in front of the kids? I, 38 female, have got 3 kids, 4, 6, 9, with my ex, 43 male, who cheated on me with a 24-year-old. Now girlfriend, she moved in 2 weeks after ex and I split 2 years ago. We immediately divorced, and I only had the kids a couple of days every other week as I work 70 hours a week. I finance everything in regards to the kids, extracurricular, camps, clothing, etc. I can afford it easily, so I go shopping with them, get the emails about their sports, host their parties, etc. I am still very involved in my children's lives. My kids told me they don't like my new girlfriend. They say girlfriend is overbearing, controlling, tries to enforce affection, and mothers them. I told ex to talk to her, but he dismissed it. So I told the kids they aren't obliged to listen to her beyond house rules. Last Thursday, girlfriend picked up the kids from my place. I say goodnight to my kids and go back inside. 5 or so minutes later, I'm leaving for work, and I see girlfriend's car standing still in my driveway. I walk over and knock on the window. I say, "Hey, is everything all right? Why aren't you leaving?" My younger ones are in the back being quiet, but my 9-year-old is staring daggers at girlfriend, and there is obviously something going on between girlfriend and 9-year-old. S from here on. Girlfriend says, "Yes, everything's fine. I'm just making a point." S refuses to comply with my rule, so I'm not leaving until he does. S, is that true? What are you refusing to do? She wants me to call her mum. I told her no, because you are my mum. I'm taken aback by this and I say, "Girlfriend, I don't believe you get to decide what my children call you. They have told you multiple times that they want to call you by your name and you need to accept that." Well, I think it's important for them to have a mother's figure in their life and that they call their real family by their titles. Since you're so busy all the time, the youngest ones have even been forgetting you. So I'm just trying to give them a healthy childhood by having them at least remember having a mum. So this is where Am I the A-hole comes in. I lost it. I have rarely been so angry. I didn't yell, as I never do, but I did say some pretty nasty things. I told her that she should be grateful to even be a part of my children's life, that she will never replace me as their mother because she has yet to even get them to like her, that she has got absolutely zero parental authority over my children, and how dare she try to force my child to do something he's explicitly said he's uncomfortable with, to just accept her role as the father's new girlfriend and take them to their dads. I got a phone call later from my ex raging at me for disrespecting his new girlfriend, and my mum also says I could have handled it better. Am I the a-hole here? I don't think you're the a-hole here. I think you're just a concerned mum, laying down the law to someone who's enacting stupid rules on your own children, and you're trying to provide for them, working 70 hours a week. Kind of really disrespectful to say that the kids are forgetting you when you were doing so much to provide for them. I think she's blind, I think she's stupid, and I think you have more than enough rights to have a go at her for that. OP, not the a-hole. OP also says, "Thank you so much for all of your responses. I am blown away. I have decided to take the appropriate steps and have scheduled a meeting with my boss to discuss working fewer hours. I had never even thought about parental alienation, but I'll be damned before I let that happen." Edit 2. I've gotten a lot of comments and messages regarding custody and why I don't have 50-50 or even full. It's because I work a lot. Less hours will still mean a minimum of 50, but I truly never thought about being alienated from my kids. POS X has always been a good dad, never thought that this would happen. Not only not the a-hole, you showed your kids that you'll fight for them, that you care about them and will stick up for them. There might be consequences, but I think you'll find that the bond with your kids will be stronger, which is worth it. OP reminds me of my mum. 5 months into my dad dating his girlfriend, they both expected her to be equal parents with the same rights to my sister and I as my actual parents did. My mum squashed this like a bug, and seeing as my sister and I didn't like our dad's girlfriend, it was so comforting to us knowing that our mum would step up to bat for us like she did. I'm sure OP's kids feel the same. Not the a-hole? You go, mama. Not the a-hole, and I would contact your attorney ASAP. This is parental alienation. Someone who is dad's girlfriend doesn't get to demand that your children start calling her mum. That's the definition of parental alienation. 100% if you were able to reduce your insane workload, I'd get even custody. This girlfriend is terrible. Definitely fight for more custody. Parental alienation isn't a joke, and your kids have already expressed a dislike for what's going on. How do they feel about their dad allowing this to happen? If you can afford it, and if you do get more custody, I would recommend hiring a nanny for when you work, but have the kids. Not an ideal situation when they could have a parent watching them, dad, but a good nanny will love your kids, support your relationship with them, and make sure this crap doesn't happen anymore. I was a nanny for 2 years for a couple that both worked long hours and had 4 kids under 10. They were often gone from 6 to 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. most days, but their kids loved them, were well behaved, and never doubted who their parents were. A good option to look into if you can. Update for yelling at my ex's girlfriend in front of kids. It's been quite a while, and I wasn't planning on it, but many of you have personally messaged me asking for an update. Thank you for all the kindness and concern for my family. Early March, I was phoned at work by my neighbor saying my 10-year-old son was at her place. He had biked in the dark to my house. He told me that he'd left because girlfriend had punished him for not joining a family bath in a way no one should support. Of course, I went home immediately. I told my boss that I was leaving for the night, and I wasn't sure if I would return the next day. After checking if my son was okay, we went to the ex's house. After arriving, girlfriend immediately started raging at S, but I shut that down very quickly. I went inside the house to collect my children, who were awake because girlfriend was yelling very loudly. They cried and asked to come with me, which was absolutely horrible. To come to the house of your co-parent and to hear your children beg to leave, it took something from me. I put the children in the car, locked it, and went back inside to grab their essentials. This time, X followed me in and tried to excuse girlfriend. I told him that he would not be welcome anywhere near the children until they wanted him to, and I trusted him again. I also told him I would be suing for full custody and that my lawyer will contact him about buying out my part of the house. Nothing he said after that is worth repeating. I came back outside to find girlfriend attacking my car, trying to get the children. Things got very nasty, and many things were said. She refrained me from reaching my car, and the police had to be called. The officers allowed me to leave with my kids after a brief chat. I did not return to work until early April. Because of COVID-19, my children went to my parents in the country. We video chat daily, and my parents say the children are flourishing, though still very shocked and traumatized by what happened. They are talking with a therapist individually. My children have also been inspected by a physician for physical trauma, of which there is no sign, thank the stars. I will be taking my ex to court soon, and will likely get full custody with paying alimony. The house will be put up for sale. Ex has formally been told that girlfriend's presence will result in me fighting for no visitation. Lastly, I did not end up losing my job. I have decided to get a professional live-in nanny and perhaps an au pair, and am looking into larger properties to accommodate everyone. The kids are very excited to come home to me in September. Thank you all very much. I don't know if you'll read this, but I want to put it out there. It is very possible that the girlfriend is a creepy weirdo that you don't want your kids around. I wouldn't want my kids around her. However, in your post, she sounds like a young 24-year-old, and she's living with a 40-something man and his kids. I would be watching your ex very carefully, because it sounds maybe he chose a vulnerable young girl and is likely at least half the problem. At the minimum, he is allowing and engaging in this behavior, but he might even be a driving factor in encouraging it for his own reasons. In child protection, failure to protect your child from danger, as he was not protecting them from her, is enough reason for that child to be removed. But I would be scared that he's more involved than it seems. Watch your kids after they visit him, even if she's not involved at all. Be very cautious and listen to what they say. Obviously, I don't know him or any of the rest of the story, so I hope I'm just being paranoid for you. You're doing an amazing job, and your kids are lucky to have you fighting for them. Posted by user Indigenous Babe, titled, "Am I the a-hole for using my mum's religion against her after insulting my son's hair?" I, 32 female, was raised Mormon, but I'm not now, nor do I follow any other religion. My mum is still very much in the cult. As such, she has the typical Mormon mindset regarding gender roles and all that bullcrap. Granted, I still think she'd be this way without her religion, though maybe not as bad. We get along splendidly, except when the topic of her religion comes up, which doesn't often. She is visiting right now. I don't see her in person much, but she came down for my birthday. It's also important to note that I have 2 sons. My 5-year-old has a mohawk, my 3-year-old has shaggy shoulder-length hair. He's never had a haircut for a multitude of reasons, none of which would even be asked if he were a girl. Not long after she got here, she started going in on his hair. This is not the first time she's given her opinion on it. Why don't I cut it? Don't I want to prevent him from being bullied? Or from people thinking he's a girl? Well, mate, because he hasn't asked, and I wanted it to be his choice. Because he acts like I'm murdering him when I brush his teeth and hair. Because he also flails around like he's having an exorcism, so imagine that with a pair of scissors. Because if someone sees long hair and assumes girl, that's on them, and a simple he's a boy corrects it. But mostly, it's because I don't fudging want to. She got ticked and said what she really thought, which was, well, I just don't like long hair on boys. Yeah, clearly. Yet she has no problem with my other son's mohawk. Guess that's boyish enough for her. And she said it in front of both of my sons, which ticked me off. I said the first thing which came to my head, which was, if you have a problem with long hair on boys, I suggest you take it up with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You can start by asking him to get a haircut. Call John the barber. Bruh, if looks could kill, I'd be in outer darkness right now. She's steeped in her anger for a while, but didn't say anything else. She hasn't changed her opinion, nor will she, but I don't think she wants to get roasted again either, so she won't bring it up anymore. I feel like we're both a-holes. As much as I hate her religion, that was also a low blow, and I have a tendency to speak first, regret later. Though I don't necessarily regret my words, I do regret how they made her feel. She's my mum after all. Update, oh my heavenly Father, I didn't expect this at all. Thank you for the rewards and honest responses. I'm glad I could make so many of you laugh. I'm here all night. Seriously though, working until 7 AM and gonna waste it all reading comments. See you all in the Celestial Kingdom. It's hard to think of OP as the a-hole when, does criticism, does you giving feedback on someone's bad behavior make you an a-hole? I don't exactly think that they were stooping to the level here, but I guess you could deem the comments as childish and just as a poor attack back at the mother, but if it were you in the situation, you'd risk being an a-hole just so that you'd stop someone from telling you how to parent your kids. I'm sure most people would. So if this person is an a-hole in this situation, I feel like it was justified. So yeah, but in my opinion, I don't think OP is the a-hole. So not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. A good, well-timed diss is all. You didn't insult her religion or her belief in it. So far as I can tell, she's being a little sensitive, and that's fine too. I don't see the insult to religion. I'm not very familiar with the Book of Mormon, But I don't think there's a commandment to have short hair, is there? I have been going to a Mormon church for about a year now, and the closest thing I've found is in my For the Strength of Youth booklet. That's about dress and appearance. In this it says, young men and women should be neat and clean and avoid being extreme or inappropriately casual in clothing, hairstyle, and behavior. But things are evolving and becoming more accepted. A friend of mine in the church has multiple piercings, and another line in the same book says, do not disfigure yourself with tattoos or body piercings. Young women, if you desire to have your ears pierced, wear only one pair of earrings. She has a nose piercing, multiple ear piercings, and is planning on getting another eventually. People always comment saying how cool it looks and never make rude comments. I think the mother personally just doesn't like it and is using religion as an excuse to say these things, because I've yet to meet a single Mormon who would say something like that. I'm sure there are Mormons out there who are like that, but I've yet to meet any. OP is not the a-hole. Not sure where you live, but growing up Mormon, I had a very different experience. If our hair got over our ears, our bishop would tell us that we needed to get a haircut before we could pass, prepare, and bless the sacrament. We weren't allowed in the youth dances with hair past our ears either, and definitely not more than one piercing for the girls. Posted by user Throwaway80013449, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my girlfriend to pay for a new prosthesis? I, male 24, had an auto accident over 2 years ago that resulted in a left leg knee amputation. I thought that would have been the end of my active lifestyle. I loved all kinds of sports as a kid, and I still do. I had a very hard time adjusting to my new normal. My parents were able to get me a prosthetic leg that allowed me to get back to running and going trips with my friends like we always do every summer. The guys were planning an RV trip on the weekend. We had already chosen a destination, which was spending some time out in nature and getting away from stress. My girlfriend asked if she could come along. I told her no, this is a guy's trip. Told all of my buddies' girlfriends wanting to go, but they were firm and put their foot down too. She laughed at me for this, then tried to convince me to let her come because she was feeling stressed out from being at home 24/7. I already made up my mind. I wasn't going to ruin the trip just because she wanted to be on a guy's trip. I promised her a trip when I get back. She got upset and didn't like the idea. Later on, before I went to sleep, I took my prosthesis off, as I do every night. This is my second prosthesis. I've already completed a wearing schedule during the first year and had to get another prosthesis to accommodate any physical changes that I had. I woke up in the morning and I couldn't find it. I looked where I put it, but it was gone. I asked my girlfriend who was doing heavy cleaning around the place, and she said she didn't see it. I was confused. It was near my bed. I asked her to stop being childish and playing games and give back my prosthesis because I knew she took it. She's a bad liar and couldn't even deny it. She said she wanted to hide it so I won't go on that trip and leave her alone. I got mad at her for this. I was stunned to find my prosthesis hidden underneath an auto part in the garage. It had been damaged. It was placed in a possession where it had a crack. It was obvious it no longer functions properly. I mean, I could still wear it, but I can't put my whole body weight on it because it would break. I yelled at her and showed her what she did. She said she didn't mean it. I told her she did mean it because she was being childish and jealous over a trip, and now she caused me $7,000 worth of damage. I told her she ruined everything, that she owed me a new one, and that she needed to pay me for a new one. She got mad and left. I basically had to use my old crutches, and it felt absolutely horrible. I called the guys and told them I wasn't coming. It's been a few days. She's still mad that I'm still asking her to pay for a new prosthesis, and called me an a-hole for not apologizing and preferring a plastic leg over her. I had to call my parents today to tell them. They told me she should at least help pay half the expenses of a new prosthesis since she caused damage to it, and then consider my relationship with her. Have I been an a-hole to her? Edit. For those asking about where I am, I'm in Asia from the Philippines. I don't think you're an a-hole for that. I think that was a disgustingly dirty trick that she's played on you here. She's done a lot more damage than she realizes, and now she's in denial about it. And it's up to you how you want to deal with this situation. Because $7,000 worth of damage, that is a lot. That is a huge dent in the bank account. And as we hear a lot in these posts, when someone shows you their true self, you believe them. And I believe you should believe her in this instance and do something about this situation, OP. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She is being extremely controlling, and refusing to pay for something she broke is a huge red flag. You have been way nicer to her about this than I would be. She should be begging forgiveness, not accusing you of being an a-hole. Not only that, she tried to guilt me and shame me for calling her to tell her that, instead of apologizing to her for calling her names. Not the a-hole, dude. Sue her for damaging your property and putting you at risk. WTF? This is not only abusive, but so fudging low that I can't even begin to wrap my head around it. This is demented. Not the a-hole. She needs to pay for it in full, and you need to take your parents' advice and really re-examine this relationship. She degraded you, disrespected you, and screwed with a medical device in her attempt to control you. This is so fudging far from okay, and the biggest, brightest red flag that I have seen in a long time. She needs to pay for the prosthesis in full, and any money lost for not being able to go on the trip. I cannot fathom her thought process. Insane, and OP, you need to dump her ass. Take her to court if you have to. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. What the absolute hell is wrong with her? She took your leg. She took your fudging leg so you wouldn't leave her for 2 days. Just a single weekend with your buddies. Even when you told her you'd have one with her, alone, but later. In my eyes, what she did is unforgivable. By doing what she did, she damaged your quality of life because you wouldn't give in to her demands. She has to pay for the damage she's done, and I encourage you to reassess your relationship with her seriously. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole happy mum? Titled, Am I the a-hole for not punishing my daughter for cursing and telling my husband my decision is final and he doesn't get a say this time? This is going to be one of the most silliest posts, but here we go. I have a 9, almost 10-year-old daughter who got her first period recently. It was kind of a shock to see her get one so early. I never had the menstruation talk with her, and we sat down for it. I didn't even get to say much. I just said that it's a natural process and that it's going to happen every month for the next 40 years. And she yelled, "F this crap," and went to her room. I have never heard her curse before, and frankly, given the context, I found it hilarious. I mean, I can't even blame her for having that reaction. My husband heard it, and thinks she's too young to curse, and we must punish her. I told him he doesn't understand, and that it's okay to give her a pass this time. He kept pushing, and I just snapped, and told him that we aren't punishing her for this, and he doesn't get a say because he doesn't understand, and that's final. If anything, me and my husband are to be blamed for not preparing her. I can't even imagine how scared she must have been when she saw all that blood with no context. And now I am telling her that it's going to happen monthly for decades? Who wouldn't have that reaction? He mumbled and grumbled but let it go. He definitely thinks that I'm being lenient and irritated because it's his daughter too, and I shouldn't have said that he doesn't get a say. Am I the a-hole? To be fair, I'd be very taken aback if I was OP, but I don't think I'd have the same reaction that this husband had. You know, that's a very young age to be getting a period. Understandably, you would be very confused at the time also, not having any context beforehand to be like, what is going on here? Am I dying? Jeez. And I'm sure a lot of ladies listening to this can actually empathize with her. It's not something you want to go through personally. At least, that's what I've heard, you know, that's my male perspective on things, so take it with a grain of salt. If I were the kid, I would have the same reaction. I think it'd be stupid to punish her for saying that. That's like the one-time pass you can have for this situation. So OP, not the a-hole, slap the husband, bring him back to reality. What are you doing there, buddy? Not the a-hole. While I wouldn't normally condone swearing in kids this young, and am perfectly okay with parents banning swearing altogether, she had a bloody good reason this time. Pun not intended. Seriously, her response is all of us. If you're old enough for a period, you're old enough to say it's bullcrap, lol. Not the a-hole. Yeah, it's not cool for a 9-year-old to swear, but it was in her own home, not at someone, and a reasonable reaction to something dramatic. Not every misdeed needs to be punished. That's how zero tolerance has this whole country messed up. A simple, hey, I know you're outraged and shocked, but let's keep the cursing to ourselves, handles things just fine. Really though? I don't think it's really all that bad for 9-year-olds to say an occasional discreet swear among friends. I tell my kid to save their swears so they'll stay charged for when you need them. OP's kid picked just the right time. That's a great trick. Does it actually work on them? So far so good. Although when he was 3, my eldest got mad at his toy and slammed it on the floor repeatedly yelling, "Ah, F, F!" But if anything, they are very prudish about my accidentally swearing within earshot. I was telling them we need a reverse swear jar, where I get a jelly bean every time I hold in a swear. It would be a festival of jelly beans. My youngest started talking very clearly very early, like 10 months old, and her first swear word was a well-timed, "God damn it!" when she dropped her sippy cup when she was 1 year old. I was a little proud she got the context right. I was less thrilled that she said it in front of her very Catholic great-grandmother. Oh no! Similar situation. According to my grandmother, my mum, age 3, slipped off the kneeler during Mass and exclaimed, "God damn it!" into the silent church. My grandmother says there's never a hole to swallow you when you need one. Posted by user Throwaway Am I the A-hole 1583. Titled, Am I the A-hole for refusing to financially help my family after they abandoned me, even if it means they'll end up homeless? I feel like this is such a cliche Reddit story, but I'm really struggling with what to do here, so... I am my mother's oldest biological child. When I was 5, my father passed away, and she remarried my stepdad when I was 8. When I was 9, I was sent away to live with my father's sister, who lived states away because her husband didn't want me to live there anymore. They used to pay my aunt some money to watch me, but when I was 14, that stopped. My aunt and uncle worked low-paying jobs and had 2 of their own children, so they really couldn't afford the extra expense of having me around without that help. Despite that, they let me stay and continued to treat me like one of their own. I very rarely saw my mum. I think I saw her 5 times between 9 and 18. She never even called. She went on to have 3 more children, 19 male, 18 female, and 16 male, with my stepdad. Growing up, I used to stalk my siblings and parents on social media to see what their life was like, and it was the polar opposite of mine. They regularly went on expensive vacations, lived in a massive house, and owned the latest gadgets, etc. I went to college and got married at 23. My mother and siblings have no idea I'm married. I'm currently 28 and doing well financially. My husband and I own our own home, we have several very profitable investments, and work high-paying jobs. My cousins, 30 female and 27 female, and I all contributed to help my aunt and uncle to finally purchase their own home last year. Recently, my mum showed up to my aunt's house begging for financial help. Apparently, my stepdad suffered from a gambling addiction a few years ago and lost all their savings. Now with the pandemic, he's lost his job and they can't afford to keep their house without help. My aunt explained she didn't have any money to help her, and when my mother demanded to know how she could afford a new house if she had no money, she explained what me and my cousins had done. My mother then asked for my number. When she called me and explained the situation, I told her I couldn't help. She kept begging me and claimed my siblings would be made homeless if I didn't help them. I told her maybe she should sell some of their fancy stuff, or they could all get jobs like my cousins and I had to. I hung up before she could reply. Since then, I've been receiving message after message from my mum, my siblings, and even my stepdad begging me for help. I have never spoken to my siblings in my life. They've begun harassing my husband and my sister-in-law. They've also reached out to my aunt and cousins multiple times, trying to get them to convince me to change my mind. I'm so angry with them all. They threw me away, and when they need something, they come crawling back? But the guilt is also starting to set in, and I don't know if I'm being an a-hole. Am I? Refusing to help a family that abandoned you, basically, as a child, is not an a-hole thing to do. I know a lot of people have a concept in their mind that these types of families you've still got to help regardless because they're your own flesh and blood. But I'd like to think that there is justice in the world, and people think logically in this situation, and they realize, hey, it's the stepdad that got them into this mess. And then instead of saving themselves, they let him drag them down to the depths of the ocean with him, to go chill with the Titanic, you know? This isn't OP's problem to solve. OP should probably call the police on them, get a restraining order, get them to leave OP the hell alone, whatever it takes. Whatever floats your boat that's not at the bottom of the ocean. OP, not the a-hole. These people are not your family. You owe them absolutely nothing. It's time to block and consider threatening legal action for harassment. So true. If I were you, I'd consider asking my aunt and uncle to adopt me just to drive home the truth of who really is my family. That would be a great idea, but is that still possible at 28? I think there's something called adult adoption, but I don't really know how it works legally, or if it exists where OP lives. Adult adoption is a thing in many states in the US, and it's actually worth OP's time looking into these circumstances. Depending on where OP is, particularly if OP is a UPC state, it can affect inheritance. So let's say OP and dear husband pass away at the same time. For example, car accident, with no kids. Depending on where they are, if they pass without a will, their assets could be split between OP's biological mother and her husband's parents. Given this story, I'm not sure OP would want that. So, a bunch of strangers and a woman you knew when you were a child are begging you for money? Screw them. Not the a-hole. If they didn't think you were the easiest means to recover their lifestyle, you would have never heard from them. Exactly. OP, would you feel guilty if some random person was texting you and harassing you to give them money? Wouldn't you block that stranger? Well, this is basically the same thing. They had no need of you when you were little. They tossed you away like you meant nothing. Because to them, you didn't. They only ever came back into your life, not because they were racked with guilt, not because they wanted to make it up to you and try to be a family, but because they want your money. Screw those people. Like you said, let their children get jobs to help out. Let that woman and her husband work doubles and triples to finance their life. You owe them absolutely nothing, so do not second-guess yourself. Posted by user InternationalBuy6169. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not helping my assigned roommate with his child? And responding with a mean comment. I, 30 female, moved into a 2-bedroom place, with the understanding that the landlord would be assigning another roommate at some point. I didn't really like this much, but I didn't have a choice since housing is so hard to find where I am, especially when you are trans. One morning a week ago, I was woken up by the roommate, 20s male, moving in. I would have liked some notice, but whatever. What was really a problem was that he had a small kid. I really didn't like this, but had no choice to accept it. I have a really big room with a bathroom, so I could deal with just isolating myself away from the rest of the house. The problems started immediately. Roommate let his kid use my microwave, and he just exploded a mysterious substance all over it. I was horrified and demanded the roommate clean it up, but he said he was too tired from parenting. So I cleaned it up and put it in my room, as well as all my other appliances. My room has the space, and while it's not ideal, I could fit my fridge, microwave, toaster, etc. all in there with a bit of creative setting up. He really didn't like this though, and demanded I put the stuff back out in the kitchen. I refused and told him to get his own appliances for the kid to destroy. He said he couldn't afford to. I said not my problem and went back into my room and locked it. Today, I was woken up to him knocking loudly on my door. I was kind of fudging terrified by this strange aggressive man behaving like that, so I texted him asking him what he wanted. He said he needed me to watch his demon for the day because of a family emergency. I said no because I had plans, a scheduled event in an MMO, so I couldn't cancel without letting a lot of people down. He kept insisting, so I just turned my phone off and ignored him. I don't know how that situation resolved itself, but shortly after, I got a call from the landlord asking if I could help with the kid more because the tenant is trying to break the lease over it. I said no, I'm not a live-in babysitter. He agreed in the end and said that he wouldn't make the mistake of letting a kid live in the house again. I thanked him and we ended the call. Just now, I needed to grab something of mine from the living room, and the roommate was there looking distraught. I tried to ignore him, but he just yelled at me, "What kind of so-called woman are you?" That really ticked me off. So I said, "What kind of so-called man needs a live-in mummy to wrangle his kid?" and went back to my room. I feel a bit bad about that comment, but I felt that his transphobic comment was really uncalled for, so I snapped. Am I the a-hole? It's hard to judge this one because I'd really like to know what the roommate side of this story is. I feel like we're not getting the full picture, and that's not to discredit OP for their story. I'm very much on their side, but I wonder what the actual family emergency was. Because if it's not just the boy crying wolf, if it's someone dying and he can't have the kid there and he really needs to rush there to do it, I can understand why he would be in that headspace and why he would lash out like that. It still makes him an a-hole, but I'd like to know the full story. OP is well within their rights to do as they please. They're not here to look after a kid. They're not expected to do as the roommate asks them to do. That's not in the lease, and he's threatening to break it, so we see where he stands. Ultimately, I can't fault OP, but again, I would love to know the story. Not the a-hole. He's a crappy father and expected a stranger to parent his kid for him because... sexism? Yup, I'm sure OP's and yours instincts are good on this one. I want to leave space to be sympathetic to single parents, but that's why we have friends who are like family. OP is definitely not the bad one here for not helping out. Even without friends and family to help out, you don't expect a stranger who didn't sign up for this to watch your kid. Seriously, what does this guy know about OP other than they seem to want nothing to do with them? Who leaves their child with someone they know so little, and everything they do know indicates they would be a bad choice? I wouldn't leave my cats with a stranger, much less a child. Never leave cats with a child. Just never leave cats in general, you know? Edit. What I mean is, I wouldn't leave my cats with a stranger, much less leaving a child with strangers. Not the a-hole. That's absolutely crazy. I'm really confused about a landlord just assigning a roommate. Is this some university-type setup? No, just a regular home. But in the listing, it said that the landlord handles all roommates. The upside to this is that I don't have to worry about finding a replacement if one bails, so I guess it's not all bad. I lived in several situations like this. I prefer them to finding roommates on my own. I might like this. Trying to find your own roommate is kind of rough, as you want to pick friends as you relate to them. But friends are not good roommates, so you want to pick people who you can relate to, but not enough to be friends. Just give me someone random. Might need to have a come to Jesus talk here. Let's get something clear. I am not your child's mother. I am not your wife or girlfriend. I'm not your relative. I am not your nanny or babysitter. I have absolutely zero obligations to your child, and I did not sign up to live with a kid. You acting like I should be responsible for your kid purely because I'm a woman when it's your kid is ignorant, misogynistic, selfish, bizarre, and unacceptable. If there was ever a chance I would have helped out with babysitting, you lost that privilege through sheer entitlement. Now, after all this, you couldn't pay me to do it. It will never happen. You need to make other arrangements. If you leave your kid here with me, I'll call CPS for abandonment. And the next time your child gets into my belongings because you weren't supervising him, either you'll clean it up or I'll bill you for professional cleaning. You are responsible for your child. There is no worming out of this. You screwed his mother, he is your responsibility, no one else's. Certainly not a random stranger who happens to be living down the hall. Not the a-hole. You owe him nothing, and certainly not free childcare. Posted by user Meddling Medez, titled, Am I the a-hole for taking my stepdaughter to a new obgyn without telling her mother? I'm married to my husband, who has a 17-year-old daughter from his first marriage. We've been married for 4 years. To get things out of the way, my husband and I started dating well after he divorced his wife. So we have her this month because her mother was diagnosed with the big C that is floating around, while it was our week with the stepdaughter. TMI, she started her period last Thursday and it was bad. I'm talking 3 days in bed, puking, cramps of hell. I had similar symptoms when I was her age and was diagnosed way too late with endo. By day 3, I asked her if this was normal for her, and she said that she always has very bad periods, but that her doctor told her it's normal because some women are just less pain resistant. I was alarmed and told her it was absolutely not like that, and her pain was not normal, and she needs to get a second opinion. She asked me if I trusted my doctor, and I told her yes, and she asked me if I could take her. I said of course, and made an appointment. We got an appointment the next morning, and because my husband was away on business, I texted him to tell him what stepdaughter wanted. Next morning we go, I wait in the car. She comes back and breaks, starts crying, saying that she felt so relieved that her pain is not normal, and that while she gets screenings, she got some pills to relieve her bleeding and pain, not contraception. When we came back, she seemed euphoric and was chatting with her mum. When she was done, her mum called me back and was furious with me. I'm talking screaming, calling me names, etc. She said it was not my place, and that the only people that have a say in her health are her and my husband. That it was very creepy from me to talk about her privates when we are at home, and she said that she was going to go to her lawyer to only let us get visitation. I am stunned. My stepdaughter is old enough to make her own decisions regarding health. She is 17. She is not a baby, and I had no intentions but to help her because I went through the same in my teens. I was not talking to her about her genitals. I was talking to her about periods, and I think that is pretty normal. My husband says that he agrees with me, but he is my husband and clearly biased. I would like to know what I did wrong, and if I'm in the wrong, to apologize to my stepdaughter's mum. You would be wrong to apologize to your stepdaughter's mum. The stepdaughter is 17 right now. I'm sure it's perfectly reasonable that the first thing she thinks about is you being a pedophile and you, honing in on her genitals because I gotta, protect my kid, when this stepdaughter's mum is doing more harm than good. I think we can write this person off as someone that's insane, and their opinion doesn't matter if it's to the detriment of their own child. I absolutely do not agree with her attacking you. It is disgusting. OP, you are doing God's work here. I've read too many stories where endo gets, diagnosed way too late in life, and it's heartbreaking to see. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. First off, mom is probably feeling undermined, or like she's failed in the care of her child by not taking this more seriously. And I get that. It's gotta feel crappy, which is why I would feel crappy all by my private self, and then acknowledge that you helped with a thank you. I didn't realize how bad it was, and she sounds so relieved. I'm not a lawyer, but if the kid is 17, then good luck with running to your lawyer. What exactly is her complaint? My child spent 3 days in bed puking, and her stepmother took her to a doctor who was helping her. Can you believe the nerve of that lady? Also, tick-tock on daughter being able to spend time at dad's and your place whenever she wants. If mum doesn't let this go, it could backfire spectacularly and soon. All of this, and it's just incredibly irresponsible that her mum was not taking her for a second opinion when she was vomiting every month from her period. That's not normal, and I'm glad OP had the sense to take the stepdaughter in for a second opinion, not the a-hole. While I agree it's irresponsible, many women have been led to believe that some women just have bad periods. Her mum might just have thought, oh, she fits in this worse period category, okay, and then just left it at that. OP sounds like she knows firsthand that she had to advocate for this young girl, and thus was actually able to help her. It's pretty common knowledge that puking because of your period is not normal. Period jokes are part of the zeitgeist, and you don't hear any puking jokes there. Bad pain, hot water bottles, ice cream. These are normal things. Puking and spending 3 days in bed is definitely not. I should add, I'm quite certain that some women will suffer enough pain to be stuck in bed for some time, but not every month. If it does happen, getting medical advice would always be sensible. Posted by user AmiTheA throw axe 612, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I won't punish my daughter for speaking another language in the house because it upsets his son? This is a crappy situation, but here we go. Me and my daughter Anya are from India. Our native language is Hindi. She is 11 years old now. Her father died when she was 5, and I immigrated to the States because everyone was trying to get me remarried to a 60-year-old sleazebag because, oh no, how ever will a woman live or raise a child alone? I started dating my now husband when Anya was 6. He had a 5-year-old son, Ben, 50% custody. Me, Anya, Ben, husband, and Ben's mum got along really well. The kids were very well adjusted and they were genuinely happy when we got married. Whenever tensions arose, we dealt with them patiently. Let's just say, after walking through the minefield of Indian family/drama, diffusing these toy bombs were very easy. Anya has a habit of talking in Hindi when she gets really excited. Sometimes while talking to me, she starts talking in Hindi without even realizing it. This wasn't a problem. If she does that while others are around, I would remind her and she would revert back to English. A few months ago, Ben's mum passed away and he came to live with us full time. He has a room already and we put Ben into therapy immediately. A week ago, Ben walked in when me and Anna were cooking and we were talking in Hindi and he started crying. He told me that he's feeling bad that he can't understand what we are saying. I hugged him and consoled him and assured him that we didn't do it to exclude him purposefully. And then Anya started crying and apologized. The whole thing was just heartbreaking. Since then, Anya has been making conscious efforts to talk only in English, and I can tell that it puts Ben at ease. Yesterday, however, she was frustrated and started lamenting about schoolwork in Hindi to me. Me and Anya were in the living room, and Ben and husband were in the kitchen and they heard it. Later that night, my husband told me how he thinks we must start thinking about giving punishments whenever she speaks in Hindi unconsciously until Ben starts feeling better. I was horrified at this suggestion. I have never pulled the "she is my daughter, not yours" card, but this is the hill I am willing to die on and use that card if necessary. Whether he likes it or not, it's her first language. Expecting her to always converse in her second language, even when she is feeling some extreme emotions, is just cruel, especially after she is genuinely making an effort to make Ben feel more comfortable. It's almost like punishing her for her heritage or for her being Indian. Of course, this is a huge point of conflict between me and my husband. I think it's unfair to do this to Anya, even temporarily. He thinks me and Anya are unnecessarily making Ben feel bad while he is mourning his mother, while we can try and prevent it. Both of us are conflicted here. Who is the a-hole here? While it's unfortunate that Ben's mother died in this situation, and he is reacting as such to his present circumstances, I do think it is unnecessary for OP and Anya to restrict their language, especially given that it's their first language. Like, we wouldn't force Ben to learn another language and then have him use that second language over his primary one. Now, given that both of these kids are very young, it's kind of hard to get Ben to understand that you're not doing it intentionally to him. He's very emotional and he's very reactive. Again, it's a very hard situation, and I can't fault OP for dying on that hill. As much as you have to cater to Ben and his emotions, In the end, he needs to learn that it's okay for them to talk in Hindi, that Anya needs that, and that OP is not the a-hole. Your husband is the a-hole. Punishing somebody for unintentionally speaking their native language is absolutely abuse and will F up your daughter. A gentle reminder is all that is needed. If your husband presses this, please leave. Your daughter deserves better than to be abused for speaking her native tongue. If Ben is feeling so left out, he should be made to learn Hindi. OP says, like I said, this is the hill I am willing to die on if needed. I am definitely trying to make Ben feel included, as it's very obvious that he's just feeling insecure. But doing it at the expense of Anya, who is trying her best, seems frankly cruel. OP, I would also make sure to give Anya an environment where she can freely speak Hindi. Many of my friends who are either immigrants or children of immigrants have lost their ability to speak their parents' tongue because they didn't have anywhere to practice it growing up. They all regret it as adults. Speaking Hindi is not only an invaluable life skill for your daughter, but also an important connection to her heritage, and she shouldn't be robbed of it just to make someone else comfortable. Please, please, please make sure that Anya gets to speak Hindi growing up. Put her in classes or cultural groups and allow her to perfect her skills, especially reading and writing. Giving her access to books, music, and TV shows in Hindi so she'd always have ways to connect with it. Teaching Ben Hindi is also a great idea, but even if he or your husband is not receptive to it, don't let Anya slip into an English-only environment. It doesn't seem like she gets to speak Hindi often now. Does she talk to grandparents or relatives at home? When does Anya actually get to use Hindi? Having Ben and Anya pick a language to learn together may be a good bonding experience for them and give Ben something new to focus on. Posted by user Sweet as Sugar, Cold as, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that she's only welcome at my house if she doesn't bring her husband? I know the title sounds bad, but please hear me out. So I have severe epilepsy and have a service dog, Onyx. Now, Onyx does have time to cuddle and relax and be at rest and just be a dog. But when he's working, he is working at keeping me alive. He's saved my life multiple times. Now, my friend has been coming over a lot recently to visit. I love her, but have an issue with her husband. He's one of those types who harbors the belief that having a dick makes him superior to women. He also doesn't believe in invisible disabilities, and because of Onyx, he's never seen me have a seizure. Last week they came over, and her husband was being playful with Onyx, which was fine as he was at rest. A little while later though, the husband began asking if he could dog sit sometime, bring Onyx to their place for a sleepover. I said no, and explained again that Onyx is a service dog, and that I needed him to, stay alive. Her husband got an attitude and told me Onyx wasn't a machine, and I had no right to deprive him of fun. Then he pulled the I'm a man so I know more than you card by explaining that I was wrong and he was right, and I could go one night without Onyx and control my seizures. All this time my friend sat on the couch saying nothing. I asked him to leave, and after some huffing and puffing about how rude I am and what happened to manners, and Onyx would have had fun, they both did. Now, today my friend called asking if they could stop by. I explained that I would love to have her over, but her husband was no longer welcome. She got upset and told me that he was just like that, and it was hard to tell sometimes because he had never seen me have a full-blown seizure. I got kinda mad and sarcastically asked her if I should purposefully cause a seizure so that her husband was comfortable. She just kept repeating that he meant no harm and wanted Onyx to have fun. I told her again that she is welcome, but he is not. Am I the a-hole? I feel awful and feel like I'm creating an issue, but that man is just toxic energy, and I worry that his disbelief of my need for a service animal will cause him to do something completely crazy. Edit. I had to work with Onyx for 2 weeks at a training center before I could even bring him home, so he knew exactly how to help me, i.e., read my body and triggers, and so we worked together and we are completely in sync. He's extremely well trained, and I feel like that might have something to do with this. Yeah, I don't know where the husband gets off in the morning, but it's definitely to depriving you of your service dog because he doesn't want to believe you and your seizures. And like you said, is it going to take you threatening to die for him to believe you? Are we not able to take people on their word when they have a service animal that they feel entitled to bring to their house without it doing its job for its owner? What kind of crazy universe are we living in here? OP, you're not the a-hole for standing up for yourself and your dog. He's a complete lunatic, not the a-hole. You are totally in the right here. Your comment about purposefully causing a seizure so her husband was comfortable was spot on. Why is it so hard for him to believe you about your condition and your needed treatment? Your friend's an a-hole for defending her husband, and her husband is obviously a super a-hole. He sounds like the kind of guy who'd get huffy and defensive if you did have a seizure, and then act like you had a seizure just to inconvenience him and to prove a point. He'd probably mansplain that it wasn't a real seizure, and then go on to explain what a seizure is, and how the dog is deprived of fun for her disability. He's awful. Hell, he'd probably interfere with the dog to try and prove that OP doesn't need him to deal with her episodes. This dude legit strikes me as dangerous. I don't understand how he's comfortable asking to borrow her service dog. Has he ever asked a man in a wheelchair if he could take it out to pop some sick wheelies and have fun? You know, same thing, right? Or just generally? Dogs aren't a borrowable property. Dog sitting is a thing, sure, but for the sake of convenience for the owner. There's no such thing as I want to borrow your dog, therefore you're obligated to loan it to me. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole still controversy? Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that I don't care that her baby died and to leave me alone? Me and my sister-in-law Daisy have been friends since high school, 15 years ago. I started dating her brother Dan when we were all in college. Daisy married Matt sometime after I married Dan 10 years ago. Matt and Daisy wanted a baby and started trying right after marriage, but they were having a lot of trouble. I'm talking multiple failed IVFs, multiple late-term miscarriages, one of which was a stillbirth, and the struggle went on for 7 years. I have helped her immensely through everything, financially and emotionally. Matt is unsympathetic sometimes. He behaves as if it's a batch of bad cookies and immediately guilts her into trying again. So, it was always up to me and Dan to take care of her. Despite many talks from me and Dan, she remarried to him and kept trying again and again. We have had many offers to leave the state and country for a better job, but didn't because we were scared to leave her alone. 3 years ago, I got pregnant. We broke the news gently to Daisy one day. She got real quiet and then asked us to leave. Later on, she sent me an email saying she doesn't want to see me or Dan anymore and that this is all too much. We tried to console her, but that didn't work, so we gave her space. 2 weeks before I was supposed to give birth, Dan passed away in an accident. I don't have any family except for Dan and Daisy. Daisy refused to attend the funeral because she will have to see me. The day before the funeral, and I called her and begged her to come. I didn't think that I would be able to go through that without her. She hung up on me and didn't want to attend the service. Soon after that, I gave birth and I decided to move to another state. I cut off all contact with Daisy and started fresh. Now, me and my daughter are very happy and we are enjoying a comfortable life. She attempted to contact me once I moved away, but I ignored her. 2 weeks ago, she called me from an unknown number and said she desperately wanted to talk to me. Turns out she finally got pregnant, had a baby boy who passed away 5 days after being born in NICU. Matt is also leaving her and screwed her over because of the prenup. She's basically broke and homeless days after losing a child. I just said, okay. She then asked, are you really not going to say anything? You're really not going to help? I pretty much said, I don't care about you. I don't care about your life. I don't care about Matt's. I don't care that your baby died, just leave me and my daughter alone, and then hung up. Since then, she's been sending me multiple emails and voice messages stating how awful I am, and how heartless and how much Dan would be disappointed. I continued to just ignore everything. So, am I the a-hole? Edit, please don't DM me about leaving a person homeless during the pandemic. I'm already aware of the fact. I don't care. No matter what anyone says, I am not going to have any sympathy or help her in any way. I am only asking for a judgment of what I said and how I said it. I really don't know where to go with this one. Usually I'm at least somewhat sure, but I'm very lost. I feel like it's an everyone sucks here judgment. I know the common sense one would be a not the a-hole judgment, but Daisy's obviously got some trauma and continued trauma, and then she's taken a deep dive out of her life. She affected OP with the trauma in her life. She's probably mentally ill at this point. I don't know how you could go through so much duress, so much stress, abuse, and neglect from your partner all these times and not be mentally ill. OP is within their rights to say what they said. They're absolutely within their rights to say what they said. I would be very hurt if I was OP that they wouldn't go to the funeral of your husband. So I can't blame OP for what they said over the phone and cutting Daisy out of their life. It still, to me, is a twinge of an eye for an eye here, and maybe not understanding that there is mental illness going on. I don't know, I can't fault them. I think everyone sucks here, but I'm on OP's side regardless. Hygor Bohm Hubner says, "It was very harsh what you said, but I'm going with not the a-hole. I might get crapped on for this, but while I think it was a very harsh comment, she deserved to receive it based on her attitude towards you. You've been helping her for years, even tried to leave her abusive relationship, but she was stupidly stubborn and stuck with him. And despite all of her struggles to give birth, she should have at least been 1% happy for you, but instead she cuts you off. And I know that she has the right to feel somewhat upset and jealous, but her reaction was way uncalled for, and she even refused to attend her own brother's funeral just because you'd be there. After everything you did for her, she drops you because you managed to have something that she couldn't, and treats you like an enemy, despite you trying as gently as possible to share your happiness with her. She saw how your life was turned upside down from your significant other's death, and she refuses to even show the slightest sign of sympathy. Now that her life was turned upside down, she wants your support. She wants you to be her rock. She wants you to comfort her. Sorry, but I'll be blunt. F that. She made her bed years earlier, and while I do feel sorry for her baby's death, you were right about one thing. You cut her out of her life, and you don't need to care about her life or her baby. Note, I said care about it. If you had mocked or insulted her dead infant, then you'd be an even bigger a-hole than she ever was. But seeing as though you never said anything negative, only saying you have no feelings on the matter, you were pretty straightforward. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry you lost your significant other and a friend. But don't let her guilt you into anything, and most of all, bringing your deceased significant other, her brother, into the conversation to try and get you is the lowest of blows. She can never take that back, and it's a very hard thing to forgive. I don't really think she was ever your friend, because let me share something with you. Real friends are the ones who stick by you during your darkest days, and have the guts to call you out on negative behaviors and actions because they want the best for you. If you have people who only hang out with you during your best, but not your worst, then they are not really your friends. I don't know if there was ever any moment she stuck with you during a dark time in your life, but based on this, she abandoned you when you needed a friend the most. Sorry for the long comments, but I got so caught up in the story, it literally made me angry. At least you have your daughter, so in a way, Dan's presence will always be with you. I wish you and your daughter the best of luck on both of your futures. Posted by user AmiTheA1230985. Titled, Am I the a-hole for informing my uncle that he's responsible for his daughter's gender and not his wife? My uncle Jesse, Aunt Lola, and cousin Poppy, female 6, visited us today. It had been Poppy's birthday last week, and we hadn't been able to visit them to wish her, so we gave her the gifts we had bought for her. My parents bought her a dollhouse and some clothes, and I bought her a remote-controlled car and some toy binoculars. Aunt Lola and Poppy were very happy and accepted the gifts, but my uncle looked annoyed when he saw what I'd bought for Poppy. I asked him if something was wrong, and he asked me why I bought boys' toys for his daughter when she was a girl. I asked him if he's saying only boys can play with remote-controlled cars and binoculars, and he said yes. He asked me why I didn't buy her a doll or a kitchen set or something more feminine. I stared at him incredulously and told him that anyone can play with these, and toys aren't gendered. But he kept insisting they are and started to get angry. My mum told me to let it go, but I found it ridiculous that he was already restricting his daughter's choices at such a young age, and forcing her to be feminine. Uncle Jesse then said if I had a son, then these gifts would be acceptable. Unfortunately, it's Lola's fault that she gave me a daughter, so don't give Poppy such masculine gifts. I knew my uncle wasn't very educated, but this was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard someone say. I informed him that it was his sperm that decided Poppy would be a girl. It isn't Lola's fault at all. That Lola has XX chromosomes and he had XY chromosomes. And I basically went on a rant, explaining how everything works. He was extremely angry after this and told me to stop lying and to shut up. He picked up Poppy and told Lola that they're leaving. They took only the gifts my parents brought and asked my parents to teach this idiot manners. My parents yelled at him for saying this, and my mum didn't say much to them but told me I had stepped out of line, that I should have just stayed silent and ignored what he had said. She said I was extremely rude. Am I the a-hole? If we're going to make a black and white situation out of this, I would say that Opie is definitely not the a-hole, but I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that room and see just how this encounter went down, and what history with this man and what words during this interaction were left out of this encounter. Because the way you say something, the way you phrase it, the way you yell at someone or not yell at them can make you an a-hole or not in this situation. I think it would be very interesting if we had more details, but the way it's presented now, the father is a buffoon and OP is schooling him and educating him, and he's in denial about that. So there really isn't too much you can do about that. OP is an obvious not the a-hole, but I would love to have seen how this went down in person. Not the a-hole for giving a basic education about gender socialization and human biology. Your uncle sounds like a bigot. From experience, though, I will say that you might not be able to change your uncle's mind, so perhaps it's better to focus on being a positive influence in Lola's life. OP says, I'll do that, and I'll get my gifts to Poppy somehow. My aunt seemed to like them, so maybe I can give them to her when Uncle Jesse isn't around. Not a bad call. I really do think you're in the right here, but sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. Oh my god, from a female engineer that does a lot of boy things? Not the a-hole. Where's that flowchart to decide if it's a toy for boys or girls? It goes something like this. 1. Do you operate this toy with your genitals? If no, it's for everyone. If yes, this is not a toy suitable for children. Oh god. Posted by user Justin Orange, titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister-in-law out of my wedding? So, my now sister-in-law has been a pain in my now wife's ass for a very long time. She's always trying to one-up her in every way possible. I have also heard a lot of stories where she has done some pretty messed up stuff to my wife, including skinny dipping with her ex while my wife and him were still together, lying and saying that I liked her first in high school, which is completely untrue, just to break us up, and turning my wife's family against her just because she brought these things up at a cookout once. These are just a few of many. Now, on Saturday was our wedding, and my sister-in-law wanted to wear the same colored dress as the bridesmaids, and after a long argument, my wife just said that she doesn't care anymore. I was in the groom's room, and I started hearing things like, why would she do that? And she's in white. So I asked my mother what's going on, and she explains to me that my sister-in-law is wearing white to her own sister's wedding. My mother then tells me that my wife is crying her eyes out, so I tell my mother to just kick her out, which she does. My wife's entire family was furious at my mother and me the entire wedding, but it goes pretty smoothly. I would like to mention that we knew something was up, and we later found out through Facebook that my sister-in-law's boyfriend proposed to her at a restaurant later that night. If you ask me, they were obviously planning on doing that at the wedding, just to spite my wife like usual. So, am I the a-hole for kicking her out to save my wife from crying while walking down the aisle? Update: my sister-in-law is now texting my wife for the first time since the wedding, and she's saying things like she hopes my wife gets a reality check and realizes what she did wrong. Also saying that we embarrassed her in front of the whole family and how horrible of people we are. I don't think I'll ever fully grasp why some people are just born so naturally horrible, and they just have this tendency for ruining everything in their life. They just have this necrotic aura around them where they have to spoil everyone's fun. I have to wear white at a wedding. I have to propose at the wedding. I have to take the boyfriend because I liked him first. You're not allowed to be happy. It makes me happy when you're miserable. OP, you're not the a-hole. This sister-in-law is crazy. You could honestly just slap her around the face right now and I'd still praise you for what you've done. You are not the a-hole no matter what you do at this point. Not condoning violence, it's probably not going to happen. Just thought I'd put that disclaimer out there. That was sarcasm. Not the a-hole. Trash sister-in-law did not deserve a chance to steal the show. She's been a horror to us for years. Blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. To hell with toxic blood relationships, chosen family is more important. Absolutely not the a-hole. OP, you probably saved what would have been a rather stressful memory for your wife. To wear white to a wedding? Bad. To wear white to specifically upstage the bride? Bad. To get engaged at a wedding? Extra bad and hella tacky. Just imagine trying to look back at your wedding photos and not be reminded of that behavior. Your wife has clearly expressed her feelings about all of this behavior to you in the past, and you didn't go against her wishes. Is it a dick move to evict someone out of a wedding party? In my opinion, only if they don't deserve it, and sister-in-law most definitely did. Not the a-hole OP, and you deserve an award for being your wife's knight in shining armor. Thank you, and my wife was happy about it, but I have been getting non-stop messages from all of her family, and I started to think I messed up. I would imagine that your family is looking at it from the bigger picture of, oh no, sister-in-law got kicked out, while choosing to ignore the specifics that sister-in-law's own actions got her kicked out. But also consider, your wife's family are the ones objecting. The same family that allowed that behavior to continue for decades to the detriment of your wife. Who cares what they think? If it really stresses you out so much, you can double check with your wife if she was happy or not. That's all that matters. Said perfectly. Thank you. Exactly what was said above your comment, OP. Standard reply to your wife's relatives should be, sister-in-law kicked herself out by her actions. We will no longer be party to any more of this drama from sister-in-law or anyone else. We deserve to be a happy family. And if they continue, then they aren't worth your time. Posted by user Ashley's. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to leave the room so someone could tell a story? My mother-in-law was born in Iran, and her family had to flee during the late revolution in the late 1970s. She has always made it clear that she doesn't like me, and that she doesn't approve of her son marrying a white woman. Interestingly enough, her other son did not marry a Persian, but mother-in-law decided Filipino was close enough and treats sister-in-law much better. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. Last night, we had family dinner, and sister-in-law said the 15-year-old had been wanting to ask mother-in-law something, and she explained that she wants to learn more about her culture, and she's interested in her life in Iran and the revolution. Mother-in-law looked right at me and said she wasn't telling the story with me there. I refused to leave on principle, and clearly everyone at the table was annoyed with me. My husband told his mum that she was being rude, and she got emotional and said it's a very painful story, and hard to tell, and I don't get to know it. I still refuse to leave. And after dinner, she took sister-in-law and her 2 granddaughters in her bedroom. And I'm assuming she told them, because when they called me out, the 2 girls had tears in their eyes. I told my husband that was so rude and exclusionary that I don't even want to go back. But everyone else in the family thinks that I was rude and dramatic. Seriously, I feel like even if you're from Iran, even if you're Persian in this situation, you wouldn't feel like OP is the a-hole for sitting at the table, right? Are we still discluding people from the family that they've married into? Like, what can OP do at this point? Why do you not accept her? Like, how racist are you? You're so racist and bigoted as a person. You'd be like, you know what? I don't like you. I'm going to say that to your face. I'm not going to include you in anything. You're still welcome to sit at the table, but just let it be known that you're not welcome here because we hate you. And I'm going to make everyone else hate you. OP has some balls even staying at the table and not just leaving on principle, just being like, I'm just going to cut you off. You're toxic. I don't want you in my life anymore. OP is a bigger man than me. I wouldn't even stay in that house. Like, I'm surprised OP was able to stand up to them like that and still wants them in their life. That matriarch, or whatever she wants to call herself, is a huge gaping a-hole. Not the a-hole, OP. You married into a terrible family. I would refuse to see her anymore. She's a hateful, mean woman, and you have every right to cut her off completely until she can treat you with respect. Iranian American here who 100% agrees. This breaks all the rules of Tarof being so ridiculously rude to a guest. My mother was also a refugee of the same revolution, and surprise, she married a white guy. This lady is just an a-hole. I just looked up Tarof, and that is an interesting concept. I understand that you were being hospitable to guests and visitors, but it looks like it's much more in-depth than that. Never been to Iran, and now I want to understand Tarof. I'll have to do some reading on that. The formalized rule about guests declining offers at least first 2 times is interesting. In my experience, people tend to do this when being polite, but it is more informal and about reading the room. Someone says, would you like something to eat? You would probably decline. If they say, oh, we just had lunch and have a ton of food, can I make you a plate? You would be more inclined to accept. I read that in China, if you were given cold tea, it was a polite way of telling you they were really busy or had other things to do. The implication was that they were too busy to make a fresh pot of tea. I think when I asked my wife Chinese about this, she wasn't familiar with it though. Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law is being weirdly exclusionary. Even if you have a terrible relationship and she doesn't feel comfortable sharing a trauma, she doesn't get to send you away from dinner. She just has to not tell the story then and arrange to do so later. Also, not the a-hole to not want a relationship with someone who dislikes you, excludes you, and is rude to you. It's weird that your partner is willing to continue a relationship with someone who treats his wife so rudely. Posted by user, I don't know man, lesbians. Titled, Am I the a-hole for saying, I don't know man, lesbians? My big sister is my best friend in the entire world. She is literally the coolest, funniest, most fun person I have ever known, and she has always been my hero. She's also a lesbian. She's currently engaged to a really cool lady, who I love almost as much as my sister. The wedding is going to be happening in December, lockdown rules dependent of course. They've sent out all the invites and stuff. One of my sister's bridesmaids is her current fiancé's ex. They're all friends and quite close, so it's not weird for them at all. My sister often makes jokes about how all lesbians know each other and how lesbian relationships tend to work. For example, my girlfriend and I were together for a year before we moved in together, and my sister joked that that's like a decade in lesbian years. My girlfriend asked me about the ex being in the wedding party and why they chose to do so, because it seemed like it would just be awkward. I said it isn't for them, and she asked why. I just shrugged and I said, I don't know man, lesbians. My girlfriend got pretty mad at me and said that that was homophobic and playing into stereotypes, and I shouldn't have said it. My sister laughed when I told her, but I don't know. The things my girlfriend said are sticking with me and making me feel pretty bad. What do you think? This is an entirely new world to me. I don't know too much about same-sex weddings and what goes on in their relationships. I've never really delved too far into the lives of them. I feel like OP has a lot more information on the sister's side of the family than the girlfriend does. I can see how the girlfriend would think that it's rude saying that from the outside in, but hasn't got the full context of the fact that it's acceptable for OP. But I guess you could say that for anything, and we could say, oh, he said XYZ, but it's cool because he's friends with these people, right? So this is a hard one for me. I'd say in this context at least, OP is not the a-hole because the girlfriend doesn't have the full story. Not the a-hole, and you're not wrong. The number of exes included in queer wedding parties is rather epic, winky face. As a gay dude, we simply just do not have the numbers to sustain burning bridges after the end of every relationship. If I burned bridges with every ex and the ex of all of any of my other gay friends, I would have no remaining gay friends. Seriously, I have a tiny, tiny group of lesbian friends. As in one, and a lot of bi women, but they all only date men, and she is an ex. A lot of my straight friends are still baffled why I still talk to her, let alone consider her one of my closest friends after she broke up with me to date another woman. I was not willing to give up my one lesbian friend, and we make so much better friends than girlfriends, and all my other lesbian acquaintances are her other exes. It's like in a small town. Everyone knows and hangs out with everyone similar. Also, it's hard to live by the bro and cis code and not date friends' exes, or you would never have a date. Wait, so you actually do all know each other? They have meetings monthly to decide how to tear apart the moral fabric of this great country, so yes, they used to be at the evil gay headquarters, but now it's all on Zoom. My best friend, gay man in his 30s, calls this the Pokemon Go effect. He says Grindr is the Pokemon Go of the gay community because numbers are so low that everyone in the area has collected the same Pokedex, and that you have to travel outside of your region to catch a new Pokemon. Not the a-hole, Lamau. As a gay, it's true. We move pretty quick. It's really not offensive. We are queer, and we approve this message. We are here, we are queer, we are getting married, and you're all invited. Hey, now that's inclusive, I like it. Posted by user Dr. Fremo, titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my recovering brother that there is a popular video on the internet of him high? This is a situation I never thought I would find myself in. Long story short, my little brother Sam is a recovering addict. He's been sober for 3 years and has been doing incredibly well for himself. 5 years ago, however, was a different story. He started out in college, played on an athletic scholarship, had a girlfriend, was considered extremely handsome by a lot of people, but things went sideways after an accident and he became addicted. He lived on the streets for a while, but after ODing twice, he got his crap together. He's now doing so well for himself and I'm so proud of him. The other day, I was browsing the internet and came across a video. I started watching it and my heart sank as I recognized Sam. It was a video of him nodding out on a park bench close to where children were playing. It had a couple 100,000 views. All of the comments in the video were things like, "Such a shame for a young guy like that," and "This is what drugs do. He shouldn't have done it so close to kids." It beyond upset me to see that video, and I didn't sleep that night. I spent most of the night thinking about whether I should tell Sam about the video or not. As far as I know, I'm the only one close to him that has seen it, and I know he would have told me if he had because he tells me everything. I eventually decided that it was best if I didn't tell him because I'm afraid that it would set back all the hard work that he's put in, and I don't want to embarrass him. At the same time, I thought that if he knew, he could address it before it jeopardized his job or a relationship. In the end, though, I thought that it was best that I didn't tell him, but I don't know and I can't talk to anybody in my life about it without the possibility of the video getting back to him. Am I the a-hole for not telling him about it? I don't think you're an a-hole if you don't tell him about it, but if you know him well enough that it is going to set him back, it's probably not something that you want to be showing him at this current moment. It might be one of those things that he never sees in his life. It might be one of those things that he does see. But for some people, it's a good reminder of where you were in the past and where you don't want to be again. So while it might be embarrassing, we always see stories of people that, they hold pictures of them when they were a drug addict, when they had mugshots of them tweaked out, and they're like, that's the person I was, and I don't want to be that again. You're not an a-hole for protecting him. It can come back to haunt him, that's for sure. And I feel like this is up to you to decide where you're going to proceed from here, not the a-hole. You know your brother better than anyone here, and know what finding out about this could do. Is there any way you can contact the person who posted the video and ask for it to be removed? I guess, if it's even the original uploader. I'm not sure it would help considering that it's probably everywhere by now. Honestly, this is part of your brother's recovery. He knows what he was like during active addiction, and he knows that other people know as well. You can't make that go away for him. No, but I guess I wanted to soften the blow. I get it. I'll hold a good thought for all of you. No a-holes here. After reading some of the comments, I feel like you should tell him. If you don't, it could mean that you're not fully trusting him to really recover. Could, maybe. Just make sure if you tell him that you're there for him even more. Tell him that you're the one telling him because you don't want him to find out some other way. What made you make up your mind in the comments? Someone wrote he better find out through you than through an employer. That was when I made up my mind. If he lived on the streets before, I think priority number 1 is having or keeping a job. He has a daily routine, a professional network, is independent, etc. And I think that could really help him stay healthy and on track. And a video like that could compromise future plans like that. It's just really important to tell him you've been struggling with telling him, but that you've decided it's probably smartest to handle the situation now. He doesn't have to handle it. You could, or someone else, like a friend. But that he is prepared if someone were to say something so he can answer confidently. I hope he understands and is ready to concentrate on the future and take its challenges on with you. I don't know, man. I have similar videos from when I was an addict, but just one's friends took of me to show me later how bad it was. Now that I'm recovering, it would make me feel crappy to see them again. If they were on the internet, I would be really embarrassed. If I were you, I would try and take them down without your brother knowing. If the person doesn't want to, then I would give him a heads up. But do they make you feel crappy in a way that you're afraid of getting down and might possibly even relapse? Or crappy in a way that they make you think, I never want to go through that again? Because that makes a huge difference, I assume. Frankly, I can't relate to this because I haven't gone through it, but from what I've heard about recovery, facing your pain and mistakes is a vital part of it. So really, I don't know what the right thing to do is, but I would definitely say there are no a-holes here. Right in the beginning, definitely embarrassing, and I never want to do that. But if I wasn't in treatment and was having a bad day, it would make me want to feel nothing again and go back to blacking out. So it depends and could go either way. Update. Am I the a-hole for not telling my recovering brother that there is a popular video on the internet of him high? I truly listened to what everyone said on my last post, and I ultimately decided to tell Sam about the video. I sat him down and followed what some people said and told him, I love you, and I'm so proud of how far you've come, but I feel like you need to know this. There's a video out there of you getting high. I didn't want you to be blindsided by it. I'll show it to you if you want. He thought about it, but told me he didn't want to see it, as he thought it would be a trigger for him. I told him I understood, and that I was there for him. As far as I know, he hasn't watched it. Honestly, I hope he doesn't, but I just felt like he deserved to know. I just wanted to update and thank everyone for the comments. It really helped. In my opinion, you should comment on the video letting the people know he's straightened out his life. Also, you may be able to get it taken down. And also to OP, people always assume it's everywhere on the internet. It probably isn't. There were lots of old videos with millions of views that I liked back in the day that were deleted, and I literally cannot find a mirror of it. I highly doubt anyone bothered to re-upload it. Thanks for the update. I think you did very well and handled a potentially harmful situation the best way for you and your brother. Recovering is always difficult and hard, not only for the person recovering, but always for the people close to them too. Be proud of your brother and yourself. Having a support like you is worth so much. My now boss has a video of me back when I was heavily using. Once I started working for him after I was clean, he used to show it to me around once a month to show me how bad I was and how far I've come. Nowadays we only reference it once in a while. Even though seeing it back then was painful, it was also a check to make sure I remember just how bad I was, and how what I thought I was all just my mind telling me everything was okay when it wasn't. That sounds so needlessly cruel. I mean, I'm glad it seemed to help you, but I can easily see this set addicts aback. You're a good brother. As someone in recovery, I know what it's like to fear something in your past will bite you in your ass and somehow ruin your life that you've built while clean. It can be terrifying. But it's 100% best to own the past. You don't have to tell anyone every detail. If something is too hard, you can honestly say, I don't want to talk about it. It's good that he knows so he can make the choice in handling it. It's good you gave him that power. I wish you both the best. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole moved out? Titled, Am I the A-hole for moving out of my house because I've had enough? Throw away because my relatives use Reddit. So I've lived with my parents up until the age of 23. Now, I know that's late, but I live in an Indian household, and usually you don't move out until you're married. Now, I don't mind this, or I should say I wouldn't mind this, if that house wasn't a total hellhole. There's a total of 8 people living in that house, with only 3 rooms. My dad decided that we should bring our grandparents to this country, and he hasn't told me why. I have to share my room with 2 adult cousins who decided to immigrate to this country to get a better job, but they don't seem to want to move out anytime soon. And let's not forget that it's so loud. I'm a nurse, and when I come home I like to relax, but I can't when there were 2 very loud people entering and leaving my room whenever they feel like it, with no courtesy of being a little quiet. So I decided I had enough. I searched for an apartment near my workspace and found a rare, nice 2-bedroom apartment. I told my parents I'm moving out, and they flipped. My dad started yelling at me that I'm not married yet, and it would be rude for me to move out before I'm married. My mum started crying, telling me how could I just leave her like that. I tried to ignore them, but they kept trying to stop me. So I told them that I just can't live in a place where I don't get any respect. I've been living in my apartment for just a little over a week, and let me tell you that this was the best decision I have ever made. My brain is no longer exploding from being in such a loud house because I get to control the noise that goes around in my apartment. I can't believe I didn't move out sooner. But my relatives keep telling me that my parents are heartbroken, especially my mum, that I don't care about their feelings. How am I supposed to care about their feelings if they can't understand mine? But I won't lie, I'm feeling just a little bit of guilt for leaving out of the blue. Did I make the right decision? Was it okay for me to do that? Edit, for those of you asking, no, I will not be giving them a spare key because that would literally turn my life into hell. They already know my address, but the apartment complex is gated so they can't come in without my say-so. That's a bit too much stimulation for one day, I'll say. Way too much for me to handle, way too much for a lot of people to handle. Why do they put so many people into one apartment? Only God knows. It seems like the parents get 2 people to one room, and then 3 in the other 2 rooms, because that's fair. I guess that's the way life is for you, OP. It's good that you moved out. You're an a-hole to those people in your culture. I guess it's out of the norm for them, and they don't want to understand it would be my guess. Not in my eyes, though. You are not the a-hole in my eyes. You're perfect and you're precious, and I want you to keep winning. Not the a-hole. If she is that heartbroken, she can kick the cousins out so you can have your room back. That was actually the first thing I mentioned. They shrugged it off, saying that they've only been working a few months and need time to settle. But I think they've had more than enough time to do that. Then, she's not heartbroken. Being an Indian, run, dun. You need some distance and independence, or you will lose any loving relationship with your parents. This is not Patiala House that everything will work out over cricket, discussions, and songs. Not the a-hole. You need your space and quiet. Firstly, because you're your own person, and secondly, because you're a nurse in this pandemic. They should doubly respect you for that. Try inviting your parents, specifically your mum, over to your new place. That might help her feelings. Thank you for this wonderful advice. I'll try speaking to them personally in my apartment and show her how much better I'm doing since I moved out. Don't do it! Don't give them the address until they respect your choice and stop trying to guilt you. Otherwise, you'll have people showing up all the time in person to try and either move in with you or get you to move home. Not the a-hole. There are cultural differences at play here. Your parents are obviously still abiding by Indian cultural norms, and you are more aligned with norms in the country you immigrated to. In my opinion, it's perfectly alright to say that you need more space and quiet if the crowded conditions are impacting on your work and your overall well-being. I would say that it was affecting my work, because I had to get my out-of-hospital work done before I got home. But now I can calmly do it in the comfort of my new apartment without any problems. Moving out has helped my mental health in so many ways, and hopefully my parents are willing to see how much better their son's health is. Hopefully they just need a bit of time to get used to the new arrangement. They may have some belief that since you have moved out, you will be less invested in family life, or whatever. If you demonstrate that you're still around, visit them often, they might adjust this perspective. Update: am I the a-hole for moving out of my house because I've had enough? Well, some time has passed now, and I can't say things have gotten better exactly. I invited my parents over to my new apartment and had a talk with them about how this apartment is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't plan on moving back into the old house anytime soon. They remained calm, but after about 10 minutes of talking, they suggested something that I hoped they would never suggest. They suggested that I let my cousins, who were a massive part of the reason I moved out, move in with me, because, frankly, there's no room left in the house. I never thought that I would do something like this, but after they suggested that, I exploded. I yelled at them, saying that they should have thought about that before I was forced to move out due to my mental health deteriorating. I told them that they are never allowed to move in with me, and I don't have any room for them either. They yelled back saying that I'm being way too disrespectful and I should watch my tongue around them. My mother started tearing up, but I don't care about that anymore. All the guilt that had built upon me for moving out had disappeared in that moment. I had them leave and told the watchman to never let them in without my approval. So yeah, while the situation did not at all get better, the guilt I had in my heart and mind from the last post is now completely gone, because I've realized that Indian parents care not about their children's health, but their status in the families more. The cousin's parents suggested they move in with me, and they agreed. Good for you. I know things didn't completely work out for you, but frankly, your health and peace of mind is far more important than sharing your space with others. Enjoy your newfound freedom, smiley face. OP, you are wrong that your situation didn't get better. It absolutely did. It's your apartment, your food in the fridge, your acceptable noise levels, your TV, your mess. Enjoy it and don't look back. I think they were referring to the relationship with the parents. Ultimately, it sounds like OP is in a better place now, but I don't know if exploding on them for making a suggestion was the right thing to do. That just seemed to escalate everything. I hope OP can talk with their parents again after both sides calm down. I'd argue standing up for themselves was the move. Some parents don't hear things unless you say it loud and proud directly in their faces. Speaking from experience, I have to kick and scream to be noticed, let alone taken seriously. Go, OP. Your house, your rules. Best of luck. You're exactly right. They sound pushy as hell, and if she hadn't exploded, those cousins would have been on her doorstep within a week, suitcases in one hand and the other hand out. Stand your ground, OP. Congratulations on the move and making it this far. While I'm not familiar with your culture, I know damn well how some parents feel like they're 100% entitled to their kids' lives. Sadly, yours is no different. They have no right to force you to do anything you don't want. Drill this message home. You made the right call in notifying the apartment to not let them in, because it sounds like they would. Don't feel any more ounce of guilt, but live on as you would've. Block them or go low contact for a while. They need to let you be and grow up. Congratulations and best of luck. I can never understand parents with this mentality. They expect that since they gave birth to you, that you owe them something. All I have to say to that is that the kids never had a choice in their birth. The parents decided to have the kid, and apparently the kid should be grateful? Buy the book Emotional Blackmail by Dr. Forward on Amazon. The "you're disrespectful" and fake tears are manipulation tools. They are not the authority over you. You are the authority over you. Good for you for escaping such a toxic environment. Posted by user KvatchDidiach, titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out on a double date my friend set up with him, his girlfriend, and a girl I had already rejected before? I feel like I need to say this for this post not to be removed. This is not about the date, about relationships, or something. I want a judgment on me walking out of there. Our cast are me, 25 male, Joe, 26 male, and Jane, 24 female. To give you a little bit of background to this situation, I met Jane through Joe's girlfriend at her birthday party last year. At first, Jane was fun to talk to, but not even an hour later, Jane was really into me and tried really badly to hit on me during the party, which pretty much ruined my time there as the feeling was not mutual in the slightest bit. But also at the same time, I was already with someone. So the first impression I got from Jane was that she was clingy, annoying, and just wouldn't stop bothering me. Unfortunately for me, she became part of my larger friend group because she is part of Joe's girlfriend's friend group. That's a mouthful, sheesh. And because me and Joe hang out a lot, and I'm also friends with his girlfriend, I pretty much run into her at minimum twice a month. So, first time Jane asked me out was a month after that party. I informed her I was with someone and not interested. She tried it again 2 months later when I broke up with my then girlfriend. Again, I declined her advances and told her I was not interested. I got into a new relationship not long after, but unfortunately, she and I broke up about 2 months ago. Since then, as you might have anticipated, Jane has asked me out again, and I said no again. Well, that brings us to this week. Everything has been opening up here, and Joe has been trying to fix me up with a friend of his girlfriend, and would not tell me who. He is well aware of me having rejected Jane multiple times, and the fact that I'm not interested in her. He knows this in detail. After a lot of what he calls convincing, and I call whining, I had no interest in dating anytime soon. I relented and decided to agree to this double date idea of his. We agreed on meeting at Joe's apartment, and lo and behold, Joe, his girlfriend, and Jane are occupying the dinner table, obviously intending for my date to be Jane. I honestly just got so goddamn angry that I couldn't even get a single word out, turned around, and left. I have been bombarded with texts and calls about how much of a douche I am, and how terribly I hurt Jane, and so on. And I'm just like, I literally rejected her like 3 times. I'm not interested in her. You knew that. Your girlfriend knew that. Our entire friend group has a running joke about obsessive Jane. FFS. So, literally everyone knows it. So am I the a-hole? I can't see you being the a-hole here. They are enabling the creepy behavior of this woman who will not leave you alone. And we're going to bring up the dead horse here of, what if the genders were reversed? everyone would be like, what the hell's wrong with those friends? They put you in a dangerous situation. You obviously said no. Good for you for not starting a scene. I mean, I can't see you being an a-hole for walking out of there and not starting an argument, not blowing up at them later in the DMs, and not having a go at anyone. That's a saintly thing to do. You are a saint, OP, not the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for walking out on a double date my friend set up with him, his girlfriend, and a girl I had already rejected before? It has been a little under 2 months, and I have received quite a few requests to make an update over the past 9 or so weeks. Looking at you, Snoo Chipmunk 3950. At first I was going to make one a week or 3 ago, but I decided against it and instead chose to wait till I had some proper updates, but well, here goes. At any rate, like I said, here goes. It turns out that some of the more pessimistic of you were right. Jane was being obsessive and stalkerish, and it sort of all came tumbling down on her at that point. A week or so after I made my post, she decided to message me. Well, it came down to her not understanding why I was showing interest in her and then refused to date her. I never showed interest in her beyond basic friendliness. A wall of text dedicated to thrashing my previous relationships and calling them all sorts of names, specifically pointing out how I dated the wrong girls, and a weird rant about how everyone agreed me and her were meant to be, which just isn't the case. Like I said in my previous post, there is a running joke in our friend group about how weird she is. Now, you might think this is something that can be expected, something that just happens, an outlet for her of sorts. Except, she sent it from the wrong account. See, I had become internet friends with a person in the past month or two. Me and her would game together, chat from time to time, the usual organic internet friend situation. And the messages concerning our date were sent from this account. Turns out she had literally used this alias to infiltrate my internet friend group and keep tabs on me of sorts. Obviously, this freaked me the frick out. I took screenshots of what she had sent me, and afterwards blocked all accounts that I knew that she was now using. I followed that up by sharing everything in our friend Discord and in our friend WhatsApp group, so everyone could see, which resulted in her being kicked from both, and I later got a call from Joe, full-on apologetic, telling me he had no idea, and he knew he shouldn't have done it, but that his girlfriend was being pressured by Jane. Turned out, Jane had literally been tramping at her for months to arrange something like this, and she finally caved. Again, creepy stuff. I told him that I needed some time, as he really screwed me over big time, and I didn't trust him anymore as a result. While Jane has been shunned by all friends, she still contacted me twice. Once to apologize, which quickly turned into weird crap where she started talking about us. She seems convinced there is an us, and I am interested, and another time just to curse at me, both from random accounts. I'm not sure where to go from here, but I am still pretty shook up. Egads, you have a real-life stalker. No fun or sarcasm intended. Make sure your home and technology are seriously locked down. People have too much time on their hands. Not sure what I can do from here, besides saving the weird crap she does and being vigilant. I think you should keep the police up to date. They aren't going to be able to immediately help, but having things on file is important if things get wild. Documentation is vital in your ability to keep yourself safe. Think logistically, if she were to show up at your house with a knife one night, the police would have a better understanding on how dire the situation is if they are familiar with it. And they can tell you all your options in possible charges or restraining orders you can get. Just my 2 cents for you, please stay safe, she sounds crazy. I guess I could go to the cops and tell them about it and ask for advice, at least they would know. So if I get knife murdered, there's a paper trail. There's another benefit to reporting it to the police even if nothing comes of it. If she does this again in the future, and she's already been reported once, the police are much more likely to take it seriously. Good luck, and be careful. And the benefit of a restraining order. even if it doesn't deter her, is that it draws a bright red line which she can be arrested for crossing. Has Joe's girlfriend apologized to you, OP? Yeah, she sent me a long email explaining what happened and how sorry she was, asking to meet up and so on. I've pretty much put them both on low contact, as like I said, I need to reevaluate whether I want to be friends with people who put me in a situation like that. Okay, and I think that's where we're going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I do hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something from these stories. Just want to say a quick shout out to my Patreon subscribers and my channel members. You guys should be on the screen right now. If you do see yourself, I want you to give yourself a little pat on the back for being amazing and supporting me on this channel, this little journey we're going on the YouTubes. I really appreciate it, and you guys enable me to do all this amazing work. So if you do see yourself, I love your face and I'm happy to see you. Also guys, if you want to pitch in your own support, you don't have to, but channel links are down in the description below to support the Patreon, the channel membership, whatever you want to do. It's kind of like tipping me if you feel like I'm doing a good job on this channel. I will be opening up avenues for content on those in the future. Just right now I'm kind of bogged down and stuck in Ireland, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, with that said, I do hope you have a wonderful day today. Whatever you're up to, I'd love to know down in the comments below. I do hope you have a good day, night, sleep. Whatever you're up to today, tell me, and I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Bye.